And if Nicholas, if you hit the button on your microphone, it'll turn it on for you. There you go.
Like that? Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm just here to give an overview of our graphics and marketing at the Escondido Public Library. So, my name's Nicholas Ivins. I'm the graphic designer and marketing coordinator. I've been with the library since 2013. So this is just kind of an overview of what we do as far as marketing at the library. So basically our strategies are divided into two categories. We have our print materials and our digital and electronic materials. As far as print materials go, we do things such as posters, flyers, bookmarks, and brochures. Oh, are you able to see this? Okay, I just wanted to check. So as far as print material procedures and strategies, print materials, or literature, as I'd like to call them, are created for each event and program. Posters are displayed in multiple library locations and select outside venues. Flyers, bookmarks, and brochures are available in library locations for the public to peruse and take. And the literature for specific events is made available to the public at least 4 weeks prior to the event date in order to, sort of spread the word about these events and give people time to plan to attend them. We have literature displays that are maintained in multiple locations throughout the library facilities, checked and stocked by staff throughout the week. And then we also have posters that are placed in high traffic areas for people to see, such as the book drop area right in front of the lobby. So the goal of printed literature is to inform the public of our events and programs in a clear and concise manner while being visually appealing and graphically interesting. For example, in posters, general library branding information is always included prominently at the top. And then we have a visual hierarchy that presents information in an easily legible format. And library social media information is also included prominently. As far as digital and electronic materials go, we have our website and e-newsletter, social media, as well as digital slides. We have our library website, which is maintained with information on all of our services, as well as an event calendar. We have a monthly e-newsletter, which is sent to subscribers with updates on new services and programs. We have several social media accounts, which are maintained and updated by a team on a more than daily basis. We have electronic versions of our print materials that are shown as on several library TVs as continuous slideshows. We have several people on our social media team, most of whom have regular posting duties. And then weekly, the graphics team meets to discuss ongoing marketing projects, including printing and distribution. And then monthly, the graphics team meets to discuss the upcoming month's e-newsletter content. We have our website. Information on all of our library programs, services, and events is available through our website. A general library email newsletter is sent at the beginning of each month to over 21,000 readers via MailChimp. And then we also have subject-specific e-newsletters that are sent out quarterly, covering topics of interest to teens and supporters of participants in the adult literacy program. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Flickr, and Pinterest accounts that are maintained by the social media team. And then we have a rotating slideshow of events and services that run continuously on 4 TVs placed throughout the library. And I just have some marketing statistics as well. So, as far as our website, our average number of monthly page views is almost 14,000. And we have an average number of 8,600 monthly catalog views. As far as social media statistics go, we have 116 average number of monthly posts across all of our platforms. We have 746 average number of monthly likes on each platform. And we gain an average of 20 new followers on Facebook each month and 21 on Instagram every month. As far as our e-news goes, we've sent over 169,000. We've sent out to 169,000 people in 2022. We've had almost 44,000 total opens in 2022, over 1,000 total clicks to our website. We have very low bounce and opt-out rates. The most e-newsletters we've ever sent was 21,715 in June of 2021. In April, we had the most opens ever at just over 6,000. And in June of last year, we had the most clicks at 416. And then we just concluded our summer reading challenge, which we do every year. It's a program to encourage reading across all age groups. This year, the theme was Oceans of Possibilities, and we do custom graphics every year. And the program is marketed to all age groups. We have 5 age groups now, and I usually like to kind of do a variation on the theme for each age group to kind of market it specifically to that audience. So we had the summer reading challenge for babies and kids, tweens, teens, and adults. And as far as statistics for the summer reading program, we had almost 1,500 total participants, 287 of which were adults, 181 babies, 562 kids, 178 teens, and 291 tweens. And throughout SRC, we had 2,400 visits to our Summer Reading Challenge page on our website, and over 33,000 total visits to the website during Summer Reading Challenge. So overall, it's a pretty successful program this year. And that's all I had.
Great. John, I think you have a question.
Hi.
You have to turn your mic on.
A couple pages, you had.
John, turn your mic on.
Sorry. Going back a couple pages, total clicks on website.
Yes.
Further back.
Oh, for the e-newsletter?
I guess that one. Okay. So that's just on the newsletter.
Yeah, that was just from the newsletter for the month of June, 416 clicks.
Okay. So, but we've got like, I forget how many thousand people are sent the newsletter, like 21,000 or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to learn, what does the total clicks mean in versus the people that got the newsletter on their email to read? Is that just they gravitated to it from the website, or?
So they've opened, not only did they open the newsletter, but then there was an event or something of interest in the newsletter that they actually clicked, which brought them from their email to our website.
Okay, now I know. All right, thank you.
Yeah, for like events, we usually link like the image in the newsletter to like that entry in the event calendar on our website to kind of just get people to our website. And occasionally some of our programs require registration, so we just have a link that allows people to directly go to our website to register for that program.
Okay. You mentioned that this was a pretty good year for the summer reading program.
Yeah.
Going back to whatever a normal year was, maybe 2019, how does it compare to that? Are we back to where we were or better? Or?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
The answer is yes. We're within 100 of 2019.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So looking at this slide, you have 43,000 total opens of the 1,000 sends. So that's about a 25% open rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is generally, it's a pretty good open rate as far as e-newsletters go.
This is a tremendous amount of work when I look at what you do.
Thank you.
Who's on the graphics team and the social media teams? Who helps you with all this?
The graphics team is pretty much me and Katie.
Well, that's a small team. That's what I was getting at. So, no, I mean, this is a lot of work, and so I thought there might be more people. So you and Katie do one, and then what about the other one?
Well, the department, sorry. The program coordinators also feed the information in, so they're contributors, but these are your organizers.
Okay, I got it.
Our social media team is comprised of 9 people, including myself and Nick. We also do have at least one, if not 2 representatives from each department in the library. So we've got Pioneer Room, Adult Services, Youth Services, and Teen, which is kind of part of Youth Services. And so each of those individuals on the team has we have a schedule. So posting on specific platforms, each person, like there's like 5 people that have a very specific like platform they're responsible for. So like making sure coordination is done, making sure that questions that are posted get answered by staff members, responsible for submitting these statistics at the end of the month, and all of those kinds of things. And then pretty much all of us coordinate via email and a special chat group so that we make sure we're not posting too close together or duplicating content, et cetera, et cetera.
So am I hearing that there's not, everyone contributes based on their department, but we don't have one person who specializes in social media? So, okay, but I'm talking, like, that's graphic design marketing, but there's like specific people who focus on social media and know how to like get people more engaged and things like that. And so I was just wondering, for everyone that's part of social media, are we doing any developmental skills to help with, that area of expertise?
Yes, so we do a monthly meeting, and then we share different articles across. We have discussions. A lot of obviously our social media team are engaged in social media themselves. We have especially a few people who are very active with Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And so they will follow other libraries. They'll report back on some things they've seen that we'd like to try. We discussed potentially creating a TikTok. And we do our best to kind of encourage and ask everyone to go out, find out things they want to try, and report back so we can look at whether that'll work for our library or not.
Okay. And then I did have a question on the previous slide that had the targets for Facebook and Instagram. Do we have targets? I mean, those were the new followers, but do you have like a target to build the social media platform for the library?
We don't have specific targets, no.
Okay, is there any initiative to like make that more solid in the future, since that is the wave of the future, especially if you want to give the younger generation, it's like we got to keep up with what they're doing, and that's TikTok and Instagram. And so I was just wondering what the initiative was around that.
Yeah, so we actually have been asked by LS&S Corporate to present because we have one of the more robust social media groups of all the libraries in the system, which is pretty cool, pat ourselves in the back.
Yeah.
But one of the things that comes along with that is we do have a monthly marketing meeting with LS&S Corporate where they kind of talk about things such as e-newsletters and social media and things like that. And kind of one of the things we have been discussing is potentially using paid advertising through Facebook. And there's various opinions and things like that, but like we were kind of talking about best practices and what's the best platform to reach the audience that we're reaching. And I mean, we've got a lot of anecdotal data and statistical backup for specific age groups using specific platforms. But the problem is you don't want to get too many platforms, or some such as TikTok, where you're creating video content and videos are very labor intensive and time intensive to create. Instead, we will potentially do small video clips or things like that occasionally. But yeah, as far as actually creating like a targeted number, that's not something we've really looked at because we've been doing pretty successfully. Facebook has really cool metrics, I guess now Meta, but where you can actually look at how you're doing compared to other local institutions of the same type. And the last time I checked that, I believe it was 3 months ago, as a library, we're in the top 5 of libraries in our area as far as followers, posts, engagement, things of that nature. So I kind of keep an eye on that to see how we're trending. I also do talk a lot with other colleagues in other libraries about what they're doing. Nick and I are both kind of up on top of what's new and what's kind of trending. But yeah, looking at actual specific targets is not something we've done yet.
Sounds great. I mean, you guys are doing a great job, especially if we're at the top. Also, I thought we were on LinkedIn as well.
We are. So I was going to just mention a few updates. So we do have a LinkedIn professional page that's relatively recent. It was added near the end of the pandemic closure. As far as posting to that, it's something that we're still working on doing on a regular basis, but I do track those statistics also monthly, and I'm the facilitator for that page as well. And then additionally, for our e-newsletters, we did recently add a monthly youth services newsletter as well. So we're sending 2 newsletters monthly. We have one that covers teen and kids, and one that's adult and all ages and kind of general interest.
Okay, sounds good. I just feel like we have a lot of resources for the professional community as far as what the library offers, and getting that tied into LinkedIn, I think it would be hugely beneficial. And then I think I have one last question, so sorry for talking so much, but I think that you guys host students to help out in the library. I was just wondering if we had students like position in your department that students help you out with.
No.
Okay.
The teen volunteers, yeah. So our teen volunteers are predominantly only available in the summer.
Okay.
Because school schedules and whatnot. The other 2 teen volunteer positions that are pretty much year-round is the Teen Advisory Board, which meets monthly, as well as the review crew who posts book reviews in order to get community service hours. The Teen Advisory Board has brought a couple of ideas to our teen librarian's attention that she shared with the group. But overall, just because we don't kind of tend to have a consistent set of teen volunteers throughout the year, it's not something that's been added to our marketing team. It's not something we would necessarily say no to if we didn't have interest, but it's not something that's been just due to who we get and when they're here.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Is there anything that I missed?
Just real quick, if you may go back to Facebook, do we have somewhere in the report the total number of the followers that we have?
I can pull that up. So the statistics I usually provide to you guys are the ones that the state library requests of me. I do track our Facebook followers, and I do have kind of the average, as well as like if you wanted to look at the year comparison. So it's something I can include in the next report. I'll give you a copy of our 2021-22 fiscal year social media
It's not a
statistics.
big problem, sure.
Absolutely. I'll put-
Also, so how are the new followers gained? How do you get new followers on Facebook or Instagram?
I mean, people like or follow our page. We do a call out. We have different posters throughout the library that has all of our handles for social media. As Nick pointed out, they're on all of our print materials. They're on all of our e-newsletters. There's really quick, easy buttons. If you go to our webpage at the very top left in the banner, it's on every page, so to follow us. I know that Kathy, who's our teen librarian specifically, will call out like, hey, are you interested in this? Go ahead and follow us on Instagram. If you're interested in like manga, we do like a Manga Monday post for teens, so she'll mention that sometimes when she's doing her anime club. Or also, I know we've done it because our book clubs for adults, we have specific Facebook groups that are invite only. So members of the, like for example, I'm the facilitator for the Romance Book Club. And so we have a Romance Book Club Facebook page. So anytime I have a meeting, I mention to them like, hey, if you want to discuss the book or more other romance titles throughout the month, email me and I'll add you to our Facebook romance novel page. And most people who do that will also follow our overall page as well.
Sounds good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Well, I'm not on Facebook, but I do enjoy your Instagram a lot. I think on Thursdays you do like historical stuff, and I love that. So I think Virginia's comments were very appropriate. I think that expanding our presence on social media in the areas that are more future focused would be really beneficial. I think this morning I read that kids are primarily right now on YouTube too, as opposed to Instagram, TikTok, yada yada. So I'm interested in seeing, what our vision is for social media moving forward. Okay, great. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay, trust update. Go ahead.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was waiting for an announcement there or not. So for the the Library Trust Fund, Michelle is here to kind of walk us through it. One, I do want to say thank you very much for approving the chairs. They arrived on Tuesday, so staff was incredibly excited to be able to set their chairs up and not sink throughout the day or have their arms or whatever like shaking as they moved around. So very excited about the new chairs, and we thank you for that. But what we did learn as we were going through this when we ordered the chairs was we weren't really aware of, oh, this line item is specific to this or that. And so I asked Michelle if she could come in and go over that today.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello, good afternoon. So, my prior accountant, who's no longer here, created this beautiful spreadsheet for you guys, but I am well versed in the topic, so I'm happy to discuss it with you. I know you have seen this on a regular basis, so I'll just do kind of like a high-level overview of how it flows. The top line there is your fund balance in accounting terms. That's all the money in your pot that is designated for library. The next few lines is kind of the revenues that come in on a regular basis, and then below that is what's been budgeted as a use. So you have several projects. There's the NEHOF donation, which was restrictive funds that were donated to the library to be used towards purchasing adult teen materials in a variety of formats. We set that up as a specific project to make sure that you guys spend it according to the will of the person that left it. The following is Library Trust Special Projects, which is very vague. It's kind of whatever you guys feel needs to fit in that realm. There's a small balance in there. You probably will likely need more than that $7,000 to do something adequate, I would imagine. Library technology, I mean, that's kind of the same thing. It describes just technology in nature, so whatever you guys think is needed within the library, that's technical. Literacy projects was another set amount of money that I think was set aside for literacy purposes.
Does that go specifically to our literacy department, so it can only go to the grant-funded piece, or does literacy, because it's kind of a broad term, can that be used throughout the library for any reading initiative? Okay, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm so sorry I'm late. Had a meeting that ran late. So the literacy line item that was established was because the library was receiving donations from individuals in the community that wanted to earmark them for a specific use. So those aren't necessarily funds that go to the Friends of Literacy. They are items that or their dollar amounts that someone said, I want to write this check and I want it to go toward literacy. So in my estimation, that's at your discretion and the discretion of the board to say, this is an early childhood learning project that the library wants to fund. That's literacy. We can use it for that. Or this is the ESL program needs a little bit more funding to do a special project. That's literacy. We can use that money. So it's not earmarked in the same way that a specific donor request would be earmarked. These are just funds that instead of coming directly to the general library, the person who was donating them said, I want them to serve this specific purpose.
Oh, okay, so this is earmarked, but not as strongly as the NEHOF.
Correct.
Okay.
So then it's a similar story, I believe, with the Pioneer Room. I think those funds were donations specific to the Pioneer Room and its preservation. And then I think this one is 25,000 towards youth services. I believe that's probably a newer one that you guys designated. I don't have the exact history on it, but kind of,
Years ago.
they kind of give you the description of their purpose within the title. That was the goal. I didn't look back to the total history of these as best prepared I could have been, but it's basically, in order for you guys to spend this money, you have to budget it to a purpose. And so that process happens with our annual CIP budget. And so you give us your direction to Joanna, and then we'll take it forward to city council with your recommendation, and then they ultimately approve the use of it.
Okay, so is the youth services library, it's a round number, so I don't, it was obviously set up more than 4 years ago.
So the youth services one was very similar. That was established because we had a regular annual donation from the, I can't remember the name of that family, but it was a specific foundation, a family trust that was donating to the library for the purposes of supporting youth services. Again, it has to go toward youth services materials or youth services programs. It was just, we want our money to go towards supporting youth services. And because we didn't have a specific line item for that subject area, we created one so that the donors' wishes would be followed. I think it's a round number just as a coincidence.
Okay, so it's more like the literacy projects as far as what we're able to do with it, just by defining what we think
Correct.
would be.
Yes.
supporting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that family, I think she donated $5,000 a year. So that's probably why it's a round number.
Yeah, and typically that's the case if a donor does give us discretion to how they want their funds spent. Our philosophy is to set it up in a project, because that kind of keeps it whole, and then we know exactly what you guys are spending it on. It's an easier way of tracking it. Doesn't get lost in the overall fund. So then if you look at this, you can also see that you guys only spent $7,000 on technology this past fiscal year. And that leaves you with a $158,000 balance remaining in projects that you could spend on. But below that, the bottom line, the 276 number, is what is available unprogrammed in your fund. But if you wanted to consolidate anything, if there were a few that were not super restricted for their purpose, you could reallocate those. You could close the remaining balances and put them towards a new one, or you could add additional funding.
Okay, the last one, the library book supplemental, what's the status? What can we do with that? Is it, what category does it fall in as far as restrictions?
So prior to the partnership with Library Systems and Services, the library was very dependent on the Friends of the Library to generate revenue that was put back into the materials collection, the circulating materials collection. So that line item represents funding that came from the Friends of the Library years ago that just hasn't been spent. And we could go back to the Friends and say, I don't have it in front of me, but whatever that balance is, and say, can we reallocate that to a purpose other than materials? Because the city now gives LS&S $250,000 a year for circulating materials. That's more than what the city had allocated to the library as a city department. So we're not as reliant upon the Friends money for materials, and instead the Friends now donate funding, and that supports programming. So if there was a special collection of materials that you guys really felt the community would benefit from, I would draw from that account to purchase that. It's just sitting there now, and it's just adding to the bottom line of the trust, which does accrue some interest, et cetera, the way that it's invested. But you certainly could go back to the president of the Friends and say, we have this balance remaining in kind of a historic line item that we would love to use for a purpose other than what it was originally donated for. Can we have approval to do that? And then you could use it for whatever you want.
Okay, so that would put that, I'm just marking down things. So we've got three potentials that are variable, if you want to call it that. That's library trust special projects, library technology, and the book supplemental. What do you guys think? What if we asked friends and thought about consolidating all these into one account where we had a lot more flexibility on what was spent on?
Well, I think we can do that at any time. I think what we need to start doing is identifying what we want to spend it on.
Oh, okay. I'm totally in agreement with that, but there's a certain time of year we can do this, right? And that's it.
No, you have the opportunity to take it.
I thought I went before city council for approval or something during the budget process.
It always has to go in front of city council for approval. There is a set time of year when the capital budget goes in front of council, and then it's kind of a bigger conversation about all the various accounts within the capital budget. But you wouldn't do it. We would take it at any time throughout the year. It just becomes a more focused, isolated conversation about what the library is doing, because it would be the only item coming before them to do a budget adjustment. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just.
Yeah, as a city, we adopt a budget, but obviously that's continuously changing. So
Okay, good to know.
throughout the year.
And that can be done at any time.
Anytime. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I should say, we do have, because of the Brown Act, we have deadlines by which we have to submit the council documents so that they can be published in the agenda we usually publish on a Wednesday or Thursday of the week before the date of the council meeting. So backing up from that, our items are due a week before that, and then the initial, the first document that we submit to get it onto the agenda is due the week before that.
So roughly a month.
Yeah, we need at least a month's notice in order to process the paperwork.
Okay, well, that's very good to know. I thought we were constricted to the April-May timeframe or something. No, okay, good.
I have a couple questions. Under other revenue, the Senate grant, how long does that go on?
The CNET grant, yeah, that's the broadband internet project through the state of California. So that we've had that since 2014, and it will continue as long as the state continues to fund it. So there's no deadline in sight as far as I'm aware. It's gotten renewed. It's a 5-year contract, so but every 5 years that has expired, they've renewed it.
What I would suggest, because I know what John is thinking, I think if we get this grant, which I'm very hopeful we will, we are probably going to, after we get that, have some things that we would want to purchase to add to the upgrades. So at that point in time, we need this consolidated, and I think we'll probably have something. I don't want to just spend it on something just to spend it, but I think after that grant it materializes, we will probably have some things we want to do.
If I could just interject, I think that's a very astute comment that you make, because part of why that money in the supplemental materials line item hasn't moved is because prior to LS&S, the library administration philosophy was, let's keep that and save that for an opening collection. So there, we've always had this goal of building a new library, and you do need some seed money to purchase what's called an opening day collection, so that your shelves are full, you've got all the newest, hottest books that are there for checkout. And to Ron's point, if we do get this infrastructure grant, if it's not funded at the $10 million level, they may come back to us and say, we'll fund your critical infrastructure elements, but we're not going to do the modernization because that's not the goal of this grant. There's not enough money in that to do all of those modernization things, but the trustees may see fit to fund FF&E, furniture, fixtures, equipment, things like that could help to modernize the facility in an aesthetic way, even if we're not able to do some of the reconstruction that we really want to do.
Okay, I really like what Ron's trying to get us prepared for. So just as an old inventory guy, the more stuff you can have that's available across different platforms, the better off you are. And we've got to Carolyn's point, we've got 3-4 items where we're pretty much fixed on what we can spend it on, and we're not spending anything. And we haven't spent anything in a long time. So maybe we ought to not just, as Ron said, not just spend to be spending, but is there something where there's a need, Pioneer Room, et cetera? Are there some needs that could be addressed if someone would bring us some proposals?
We're in the process right now of working together, the library staff and information system staff, specifically related to the Pioneer Room, about digital storage. So it's very expensive. It's needed, especially as we continue to work through the partnership with the Escondido History Center and digitizing their photo collections. So we're still kind of working out, who's going to pay for that, the initial capital investment, and then the ongoing cost of that. So that's certainly something that the trustees could help to support. The Pioneer Room Friends may also want to kick in some funding for that. So yeah, definitely. I think that, Dara and Katie and I can talk offline about some projects that we may want to bring forward that you guys could fund that would be small but impactful as we continue to wait to hear back on the grant.
Okay, so who would be, just in case we chose to go that direction, who would be in charge of talking to Friends about, since that specific need that we got that money from several years ago no longer exists since we got the contract with Alsoness, can we put it back in the general fund to be spent?
It would be appropriate for Carolyn to attend the Friends meeting and just initiate the dialogue. We would put it on the agenda. They have an agenda just the way that you guys do. It's an open public meeting. And then Carolyn could just explain, they probably don't remember the history of it either, to be honest. So I could be there, or Dara could explain what the history is. And it's just a simple request for a reallocation of the funds,
Right,
the purpose of the funds.
So is that something we have to vote on, or we just have Carolyn go do it, if we all agree? What?
I don't believe a vote is required.
Okay. All right.
Consensus.
It's a good idea.
When is the next Friends meeting? Do we know? Oh,
It is typically the second Wednesday at 10 a.m., which would be September 14th.
great.
Any other questions? Good? All right.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, next. Dara, do you want to talk to us about the strategic plan?
A little bit, yes. So hopefully, since we reviewed it last week, you have some memory of updated goals for us as a library to achieve over the next 5 years. Currently, if you look at your agenda packet in pages 12 through 14, we have the table that was created by Patricia, and we can definitely keep using that as the format and update it with our new strategic plan goals. Or we could, this would be a great time to change it over if there is a desire to do so. So I'm simply presenting that as a possibility. Since this is new information, new goals, is this a time to, because I'm going to have to either refill out the current format, or it's time to create a new one. So I just wanted your input, if because I know in the past we've talked about maybe breaking it down where we focus on a type of goal quarterly and just report on that. So I go back to the idea of we bounced possibilities around before, but we never really landed on the ideal presentation and format.
Well, 2 questions for you. Do you want to go to a new format, and what do you think about quarterly?
I am not opposed to keeping with the same one. My concern about the current table is it's such an overwhelming amount of information that it doesn't really get reviewed. The reason I would like a quarterly is at least it keeps us focused for a period of time. And I think we can be flexible if something outside of that quarterly stated topic happens, that can just be put in my director's report. So I think that that could be a better way to focus on topics at a time and also organize the meetings throughout the year, knowing that we have a particular focus January through March and then, April through June. I'm open to what you all want.
And we didn't talk about this ever, okay, but I agree with you. What you're saying, but should we start off the year with, okay, this is what we're going to discuss for the first quarter, and these are the goals, and these are the deadlines, time frame, the date of completion, so to speak, and just talk about it every quarter.
Okay, and if you look at, so on your screen, you should have the strategic planning goals and objectives. I can't reach that far, so I'm going to have, okay. So it lends itself to just break it down. So for instance, we could focus on community hub, cultural connector as a topic. And then we have embrace emerging services. And then we scroll down, support Escondido economy, resilience, and then there's our quarters. So we could simply break it down that way, and I could come up with a prototype to present to you, or even get your input on next meeting. But I could plan to report back at the September meeting with focus on. Let's start with the first one. Community hub and cultural connector.
I'm just wondering, do you have to create a similar document to review with like your management, LS&S, or the Escondido employee team members?
Not in a formal
Okay.
format specified by them.
Okay. I was just hoping that we didn't have to duplicate your work, but
Okay, yeah,
I
no.
tried.
No, whatever we create would be what I would use when I report back.
I think these goals are fine, but we have to have a method to bring them down. I used to tell my staffs, if we have 10 goals, in 5 years we will accomplish probably none of them. If we have one a year or two, we will have accomplished all of them. So my feeling is it's fine to have all these goals, but we need to pick out from each section what we want to work on and what the timeline is, and so that way it will get done. It's just too voluminous. It's not going to happen the way we have it now.
Well, so if you look at it, we do have the timeline, so we could break it down and focus on.
One thing at a time rather than 4 of these things at a time.
Okay.
I think we need to really zero in on what we really want to do, and it doesn't mean we don't want the other goals. They're fine, but which goals are we going to put the emphasis on is the critical matter.
Okay. So what's the consensus, if I can ask that from everybody else?
Well,
Do you want to focus on?
I like what Ron's saying. You've got, let's just look at strategy 1. You've got 2 of them that start in 2023. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the next, can you scroll down to the next one? Okay, and we've got, again, 2 of them, 1, 2, you got a lot of them. But you got several that start in 2023. It's kind of, like Ron said, you don't have enough arrows in your quiver to hit all these targets in 1 year.
But they do have things that they do consistently, right?
Yeah, you can do that.
So I think for each of these objectives, we should identify at least 2 things that you do throughout the year that you can hit, and then maybe 1 thing that is time-based. So for, say, I don't know, I think at the top there you had partner with 4 organizations. Mm-hmm. You need to identify the organizations, and then you need to set up, I don't know, events, and you can do 1 event per quarter with 1 organization. So I think what we need is actionable goals and then goals that you guys will perform consistently. So your actionable thing is time-based, so you give yourself 9 months to get it done. And then the other 2 items are easy to hit, and they will build on each other over the years.
So to clarify what you said, we will take a look at these and we will kind of make 2 lists. One that is kind of our ongoing consistent offering, and one that's going to have a dedicated time frame in which we're hoping to accomplish.
Right. And then, for the actionable things, if it gets to be too much, then we can help you prioritize as to what you're going to hit that quarter.
Okay.
So then if we stuck with the current table with the new items, and then we would just have a breakout section at the beginning of that outlines, hey, this is what we've started for this, this is our action item. This is where we are, this is what's happening.
Right.
And then just do 1 per meeting.
Yeah.
1 per meeting, or do you want to?
Or 1 to 5, no more than 5, or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
I think once we see what your 3 things are for each of these, we can make a decision as a board as to what to pursue. So, for example, encourage reading. I think you always do that, right?
Right.
So for adjusting the collection budget to meet specific community needs, we know exactly when you adjust the budget. So you can say, I don't know, when is it? It's like May, June, May. So May of 2023, your action is to adjust the budget. That is an actionable thing. Provide personalized services by creating reading suggestion lists. That is ongoing. Maybe one of your actionable things is to do a campaign effort to see if people want a new book club. I don't know. We can figure out things. But I think it's really important, and to demonstrate accomplishment, right? Being able to say, well, we thought we would hit it, by September, we'd have these 4 new partners. We have the 4 new partners now. Let's make a new actionable goal. Because it kind of keeps us on track, and it has demonstrated performance.
Yeah, and then,
And then you can report monthly on what you do
right.
all the time.
Right, okay. All right.
We can start with that. If you have questions, I'm happy.
No, I'm just thinking in terms of as it goes along and we're, approaching 2027.
Yeah.
Like making sure that we also have a list of those action items that we completed.
Yeah, absolutely.
To refer back to. I'm just, that face was just me in my head trying to think of what it looked like.
Okay.
Okay, no, that's very helpful. So I'm going to take our current table, update it, and then we will also break out action items for meetings based on what we have happening. Okay.
I mean, does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And that's not to say that we can't tweak what you see in the
Right.
first couple of meetings. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. That's very helpful for me.
Good. And then, Dara, you mentioned last week we went over something. Did some?
No, I said previously we had talked a little bit about better presenting that long table.
Yeah. Oh.
Because I think there are times where it feels a little exhausting in the review. And so that's one reason I just started highlighting things that have changed, or, something that was new in the past month. But we had talked a little bit, and it's probably even pre-COVID now, about could we make that clearer? And since we have our new strategic plan, that was my rationale for bringing it up today.
Okay, got it. Ron and Virginia and Mirak, have you been able to, do you have questions about this? Have you been able to digest it at all?
Realize that we went over this last month. Did we go over this last month?
No, we did not.
Okay.
We haven't gone over it it was definitely more than a year. I think it may have even been pre-COVID, where it predates you for certain.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think I did get it when I started on the board, but I need to refresh my memory now that I have a better idea of what goes on here.
Right, and this is the brand new one that we worked with the committee.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it might be helpful if we can maybe schedule a call with Debbie, Brown Act, right? To have her walk you through it, like walk you through the process of like how we started and how they came up with it. I think, this has been what, a 2-year effort? Oh, John? Right?
Yeah, we started 18 months out.
Yeah, it's, about that. I think we started in October of whenever the hell that was, almost over 2 years ago.
Okay. So it was very, fantastic effort.
Yeah. So, without, engaging the Brown Act, it could be, you and I were pretty much buried in this for 2 years. So one of us with Debbie and Virginia should take care of it. And then we'll just be
Merrick
two
probably
people.
wants to, I don't know.
Oh,
I think it would benefit everybody to kind of review it and refresh it. Absolutely.
okay, well then that would require,
I don't know if she has availability to come out or.
Or even if she did something similar to Lauren, when Lauren gave the overview of Library IQ, we could potentially have her attend virtually. Yeah, that's what I think at a board meeting.
I think that's a great idea.
yeah, she lives in Baltimore, so virtually it'd probably be a better deal. Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock her time then.
Yeah, Zach, we would have to get permission again for a call-in / Zoom situation.
Sure, we could work with Digital Media Services to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great.
I had one question, if I could ask it. It's on the. I'm very interested in the goal we have. Invite the business community to provide and attend programs. What is this? RLSL letters have been received. What does that mean?
The Read Local, Shop Local program.
That's what I did. I didn't get the acronym right, so okay, I got it.
Okay, are you looking at the breakdown for
Yeah.
this packet? Yeah, it's we sent out our invite letters for the year to be part of the program. Yeah.
Good.
I just want to let you guys know, this strategic plan as well as the former strategic plan are both publicly available on the Escondido Library website, just escondidolibrary.org/strategic plan. They are both linked. If there are any issues, if you want me to email them to you as a PDF instead, just let me know and I will get those to you. Okay, I'll send it to you, Merrick.
Maybe as a board, we can also recommend to Dara and Katie the actionable things we'd want to see as part of this. That way, it's not like, bring me a rock where we say, no, that's not a good enough rock.
Well, I think the strategic plan gives us quite a bit of structure to
Right.
what we're accomplishing for each of the goals. I say that, but there's definitely some in there where, like, for instance, what would our makerspace look like if we were going to go there,
Right.
that route? Then I think we will look at that item individually and
Right.
create the structure and the plan and how we're going to determine what that would be.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I mean, I think, for example, for Engage Elementary and middle grade students by offering a STEAM area for coding and robotics, that's not till 2026, 2027, but we know that we're going through the grant process. So, keeping in mind that we would like a space like that, and maybe that's something that we talk to the interior designer about, or obviously incorporate into any future plans we have for a new library.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's a whole nother piece. There's so much
There's a
of
lot.
this
Yeah.
that is dependent on whether or not we receive or to what extent we might receive money back from an infrastructure grant, or if we're told no, then some of these we're going to have to be really, really creative to achieve.
Okay, great. And then, maybe and obviously I can go through this myself and send you a long list of things, but for improvement to the facility annually as funding permits, that is a perfect example of what we could use the trust fund for. So
Yeah.
we can help identify what we could use that on. Okay, great. Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay. Okay, would you like to? Okay.
Okay, so the next item is a requested update to our collection development policy. So in recent times, specifically the last year and a half to 2 years, there's been an increase in challenged and banned materials, specifically in school and public libraries. They are targeted specifically at either materials by multicultural or people of color or LGBTQ materials. In the interest of streamlining procedures and respect for both library staff time and your time as board members, we are asking to just update the very end of the policy that details our challenged material procedure to include a cooling off period of 1 year from the time of review before an item could be challenged again. That will prevent kind of this ongoing cycle of something being challenged, it's taken off the shelf, we review it for a month, it's determined by yourselves and us that it should stay on the shelf, it gets put on the shelf, and then immediately another person pulls it to challenge it. So this is something we've seen unfortunately happening across the country, and in an effort to combat that potential issue, we are asking for this update to the procedure to just include a 1 year period that if an item is challenged and it is found to stand where it should be on the shelf, that it would not be challenged again for 1 year from that time that it was.
Katie, have other libraries instituted this or are thinking about it?
Yes, it is something that has come up a lot recently in our California specific listservs, as well as across the country. The American Library Association has posted about it on their website, that this is something that a lot of libraries are considering just due to what's going on. We actually had asked colleagues about whether they've done it yet, and everyone's kind of looking into it. I don't remember if we had an example of one that's doing it yet.
We did, and I can't remember what it is. I will.
Yeah. So Dan came up with one that's doing this, which is why we thought to do it. So we'll find out which library it is.
Can you give me an example of how and why a book would be banned or a material would be banned?
Okay, so if you review the page of your, I'm trying to look what page 10 of your agenda, I copy and pasted the existing procedure with you can see that I used the track changes in Word, adding that additional step to the end. So typically, Virginia, what ends up happening is, let's say a parent comes into the library and they see the book And Tango Makes Three, which is a very commonly challenged book about a penguin with two dads, on the shelf. And then they would come to the desk and they would say, I don't feel this book is appropriate to have in the library. And then we would explain to, usually it would be a supervisor, would explain to the person, the American Library Bill of Rights, the right to read, that we are a public library that provides materials for all people. We're going to have materials that are for families with different viewpoints, and we encourage that person to use their own judgment in checking out their materials or materials suitable for their children. If that person was not happy with that answer, we do have this procedure in place so that they can, there's a form, it's on our website, they could fill out that explains what the material is, why they feel that it is not appropriate, what their recommendation is. Do they want it taken out completely? Do they think that, oh, this is a book in the kids section, it should be in the adult section, that kind of a thing. At which point, if you go through the steps, basically the gist of it would be, at that point, library staff would pull the material from the shelf, we would review it as the management team, we would make a recommendation, we would bring it to you as the board to consider that. We would explain what we did, the steps we took, we would provide what the person had stated, that was their complaint. And then I believe it says, we would tell them what our decision is, and then if they were not happy, they could appeal it to you for a final ruling. So I was a little off in that step.
Okay, so I understand the challenging process, but can you explain when a decision is made to ban a book and how those decisions are made by you guys? And can you give an example of when you would ban a material?
If it's something we've already selected and it's on the shelf, we'd like to, we're going to always try to fall on making as much information available as possible to anyone in our community that's going to want to read it. Certainly, if something was truly, pornographic or, I don't know, could incite some sort of harm to a group and something that spoke of hate, it would have to be something very, very
Okay.
negative, and we would always take into consideration the case that's presented to us. Wow, that's a really hard one. I can't think of too many things we would ban except for items that it's certainly a case by case. If we have something that comes before us and as a team we're 50-50 and can't decide, and we bring it to you and you guys determine that, hey, for our community in Escondido, we don't think that anyone needs to read, I don't know, a violent book. I have no idea. We would follow your suggestion.
Okay.
As our community representative. But I think what the concern is from our perspective is just the continued staff time, because we have been very fortunate and only had inquiries in this past year about particular books, but then when we point them to the process of filling out the paperwork, letting us know exactly which books, the reason for the concern, we haven't had anyone follow through and fill out the paperwork for the challenge. But what we are seeing in other libraries are the library staff making the suggestion to keep items, the board supporting library staff, and then the librarians and the staff involved in the decisions are now referred to in a negative context and harassed, really.
Yeah. So I was just wondering how often this comes up where you decide that, okay, maybe this book shouldn't be on the shelf, to see if we need to keep it open, but it sounds like it's very far and few between, and I also trust your judgment about picking the books and standing behind them. And since it hasn't been
Well, it would always come to the board.
yeah, and I haven't seen anything since I've been here, since over a year. I haven't really seen a book challenge since I've been on the board. So it seems like the process is working with you guys reviewing the challenge, and then it doesn't go any further. And so, in my opinion, since we haven't actually been to the step of having to make that decision to ban a book, I do agree with this as a waste of staff's time. So I was just wondering how the process is working, and it sounds like you guys have it down.
Yeah, we haven't actually had a formal challenge since I've been here. Knock on wood. We've had in the last year a lot more just emails about potentially challenging or questioning why we have certain items in the library, and maybe they ask the question, why would you have that, or whatever. And then for us to truly take the time to review it and go through the process to present it to you, we do ask that they complete paperwork and follow through with their reason to explain why it should be challenged. And up to this point, nobody has gone through those motions.
Well, since we haven't had that, that's a great time for us to get this exactly the way we want it.
Well, I think it would be negligible on our part if we didn't, because it is happening in so many places. And I do think that it's only a matter of time. If we're getting emails questioning, somebody's going to eventually follow through and fill out the paperwork.
I think the 1 year is a good addition to the policy.
Okay.
I have a question about that, actually. So why did we choose 1 year versus indefinitely, or based off of the board changing, or why 1 year?
Okay.
Sorry. The one that we modeled it after, like initially as staff, we were discussing 6 months because, you know, we're professionals in this field, and part of the whole selection process, as many of you understand because you've been through us with like how we do the weeding and how we decide what to add to the collection and all of that, is we're all very conscious of what are topics our community's interested in, what's popular right now, what's important in the changing landscape of the United States or the world. And so we use all of that to decide what we order in the first place. And so by the time something gets to a challenge situation, at that point, it's probably been vetted at least by 3 people in the purchase and processing. So the assumption being at that point that the staff who was responsible were on board with ordering it for that specific area of the library. So I totally lost the thread of what we were asking. It was, why 1 year? So things change, as you guys know, like we're having all these ban issues now, we're having more of these conversations now, when previously maybe that wasn't as like big of a topic or something. So 1 year, I feel, first of all, was what was the recommendation. But second of all, it gives time for people to kind of, things to move on, certain things to be more popular or less popular, or more like in the public eye or less in the public eye. And that kind of, I think, gives a good amount of time where we've agreed on something that it's good to stay or needs to be removed. And that gives, I think, a good cycle of time for new things to crop up that might be more popular or less popular. I don't know if that made sense. I'm sorry.
I was just going to add to that. So the idea of a cooling off period, this is my results from reaching out here. The idea of a cooling off period is very new in the library world, because we're just now entering this time where the challenges are coming at pretty rapid fire. So it's university libraries that, there was one, Pierce College in Washington State, that started this idea. So that's why it's being discussed and talked about. And when you think about staff time, that's where I just wanted to answer. That's where it's coming from. It was not a local library, but local libraries are discussing this. But the reason for the 1 year, in addition to, like Katie mentioned, things change, we can also be open-minded too. Say we have a graphic novel that has a particular scene and it was in the teens. Maybe when we purchased it, we knew this was a popular author, but weren't aware of these 5 pages. Certainly, we could also consider, if we didn't ban it one time, maybe it's not that popular, maybe we can move it over to the adult section or something to that effect to find a compromise if possible. But I think I think a year's pretty long time. Staff changes, you could have new points of view in that amount of time to reconsider, because something we might get rid of at one point in time, it could be a very trending topic and pertinent to the collection, whereas a year from now, we could say, oh yeah, sure, no problem, we'll get rid of it. And the reality is it just hadn't circulated and we were gonna weed it anyway, so.
Okay, so the 1 year is really to just give the public some time to cool off and then give them the opportunity to re-challenge in the future if they still feel strong.
Yeah.
And save stuff from
It
doing it
saves
over
our-
and over
right.
over again
No,
throughout the year.
so my original question was, why not longer than a year, right? So I understand, I'm on board with this. I think from me personally, I would likely never choose to ban a book, ever. But if we want to go through, if that's the recommendation to do it every 12 months, I'm totally on board.
Yeah, me too.
I move approval.
Question. What if somebody did go through this process and a second challenger came? What would be our communication to the second challenger?
Sorry. This is Katie's item and I keep talking. Just simply that it was reviewed and we would never reveal any names or
Yeah.
anything like that, but we could say that the challenge, we had been challenged before on this date, and we can give them the discussion points that we want to share that staff arrived at, and that there was a Board of Trustees meeting, it was voted on, and this was the result, and that it's within our policy to, for the sake of staff time, leave it as is for the next blah, blah, blah months. Now, that person might put that on their calendar and come back in exactly blah, blah, blah months, but
I just wanted to be sure
Yeah.
they received the details of the challenge, not it was challenged and it's our policy not to challenge again, goodbye, so I'm
yeah.
glad the details will be shared.
okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Dara, take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what you heard today. We had a successful summer reading challenge. This one felt exceptionally special to us because it was the first time we were in person in 2 years. And I would like to correct that our total participation was not 1,461. That's what it was at the time I had to get this out to everyone. It was actually 1,499. And I'm going to leave it at that because I don't 100% trust my breakdown after seeing Nick's presentation. But it was very successful, and some of the highlights included the traveling tide pools. If you have not had a chance to attend that, that's a really great program. It's amazing how much sea life can be portable, but we had 210 people attend that. We also had the Wild Wonders Animal Show with 157 people in attendance. Mark Griffith is an inspirational ventriloquist, and he had 92 in attendance. We also ran several Oceans of Possibilities themed crafts. We had a shark and fish windsock, air dry sea creatures, ocean zone upcycling, and sea slime. Sea slime was very, very popular and had 97 people attending, which was great. The teens also had some amazing programming, including Gameology, Anime Your Way, and a summer camp out party that celebrated the end of their reading challenge. Adult programming also had their succulent swap, gardening workshop, and summer concerts. And overall, people seemed very excited to participate this year. It was just very nice to have everyone back in the same place. And we were very close to our 2019 numbers, but we were double last year's numbers. So,
Any questions? No? I have a question.
okay.
So I think the library does like read to a puppy,
You pause for reading.
pause for reading. Can we make something for adults like that? Yeah.
I have 3 dogs. I'll just bring them in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. right.
No, actually, you can always come in during those times.
Okay. I just see it's for kids, and I'm like, would it be weird to just?
I
like,
think we
snuggle
would
puppies?
ask if the kids came in and you were monopolizing the dog, that you share the dog. But we're pretty flexible about that. And there's also the bearded dragon as well, if that reaches out to you.
Those don't interest me as much as puppies, but I appreciate.
Those are for all, kids all ages.
Okay, got it. Just like Disneyland. Okay, great. So if there are no other questions, we'll go down the line of experiences with the library. Virginia, would you like to start?
Yeah, so I was just looking at your events page, and I happened to come across the Teen Advisory Board that Katie you mentioned earlier, and I was just curious, like a little bit more about that program, like how long has it been going, how involved, how are we recruiting, and what are they helping us with?
So Teen Advisory Board meets once a month. They actually just met this week. And there's, I'd say, get between 4 and 7 every month, which is pretty good for teens. They get community service hours for attending the meeting, and they discuss what programs they'd like to see the library do. In the past, they've worked together to create like knitted hats and things for charity. Right now, they're more focused, I think, on kind of coming up with ways that they could improve in their communities and what kind of things the library can do for teens that would get more people in the door, or programs we have that they really like. That's something that I would like to defer to Kathy, who's our teen librarian. She's going to have more information about the current makeup of her teens, because it really depends on what group of kids you have from one year to another. But I believe that we're going to have either September or October, we'll be having the youth services department head come and give a presentation, and I'll make sure that he touches on that.
Okay, do you know how they're doing their outreach for getting students on that, or teens on that board?
I do not. I know she reaches out. I don't know if you know, but I know she does reach out to the high schools, and she works a lot with the counselors there.
She does, and she's really creative about tapping the ones she has to help her recruit others.
Okay.
But beyond that, I'm not real sure, so we could definitely have her come and talk about that.
And would it be appropriate or open if one of the board members ever joined one of the board meetings just to listen in?
Sure, we would just give her advance notice and let her know. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you. Excited about that program. I was excited to find it. Thank you.
Well, I get in the library about once a week. In fact, I was just there. The parking lot is full. I think it may have something to do with the heat, because it's beautifully cool in there. But I just find it a really comforting place. I did have a question about the business section, and it was answered by, when you go in there, they've got something on the computer that says it's not in service, but you can ask one of the attendants and they'll put it in service, so that way people are not using it. My wife calls me. She knows. But there's just a lot of people in there today, and there's a lot of people in the quiet area. There's a lot of people in the teen area. The computers were about 2/3 full, and it's very professional. It's very quiet. I had a couple of questions that I asked people, and they were very, very helpful, very professional. I talked to Amy Brown, who was in running the used bookstore today. That place is crowded. I wish we had room to help them out, but I don't know where you would get it. But it is really popular and crowded, and there were a number of people in there. So I just enjoy going to the library, because I think it's a good example of what a professional library should be. You guys have done a good job.
So I was reading, I came across an article the other day about, I think it was a library in New York that started to collect all of the things that they found in library books that were returned, and then they did like a exhibit basically, and it was really cool because it was like personal things, like letters from moms to kids, and just very like community identifying. So I thought that was really cute. I don't know if you guys come across a lot of stuff that ends up in the books that come back.
We just returned a credit card this week. I've made more than one call for $100 bills used as bookmarks. It is always fun to look and see where people traveled, because their boarding passes are still in the book. But I think that would be a neat exhibit, but at the same time, the letters and such, I'd be so worried I was violating a privacy act. But yeah, what else have we found?
A lot of times checks. So luckily, those usually have someone's name and phone number, so we can call them. It's strange how many people use money. Like Dara said, many people have cash, like $1 bills, $100 bills. somebody's used a sock. If you check any books that my children have left stuff in, you're going to find Bakugan cards, and you're going to find Pokemon cards, and you're going to find a random piece of paper that my daughter drew something on. We do find a lot of kind of kid art type stuff as well. Postcards, which is cool. Again, just like the boarding passes.
The worst, though, is when you find really adorable family pictures and you find that book on the shelf. So it got all the way back on the shelf, so you can't go and figure out, oh, it had to be one of these three people that, yeah, so, yeah.
Kind of a side note, I think is really cool. I have a collection that was given to me by a former circulation person when they retired. That is 2 full boxes about yay big of all the foreign coins that have either been used in the cash register or put into the automated, like when you pay your fines. One of them has like a legend of like what countries. So I think that might be a really fun social media post, but that's something that's actually really fun.
Oh, well, in that theme, I had left a picture of my twin granddaughters in a book, and I guess they found the picture before it went back on the shelf because they called me and I went down and got the picture. But I think I want to talk to friends about keeping the bookstore open more hours. Because, okay, I went there and I was going to pick up 2 cheap books because we were going on a trip. So I went over to the 50-cent section, lifted the cover, found 2 books, slipped a buck under the door and left. Nobody seemed to care what I did, so it worked.
I think they have quite a few volunteers now, but with COVID and other things happening, we've had some unexpected closures on the bookstore. So we keep trying to convince them that we just need a few people to be on call or substitutes.
They could all do self-serve like I did.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea. We could just have an envelope even at the customer service desk to say, hey, while you were closed, we sold these 3 books or something. We'll bring that up at the next meeting, and Carolyn will be there to witness it.
Well, I just have to admit that summer has been quite busy for me, and with travel and having visitors over. But I do follow, even being overseas, the emails I get from Katie, and so I'm aware of all the programs, and you guys are doing a great job. And I'm aware of every single one that you put on, and they're awesome. I wish, especially in the summer, we could participate in them. But now that school's back in session next week, we'll be there. Thank you for your work.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, everyone. Did you want to go? No? The 2 of you? Sorry. No. Did you want to share anything? Or?
Oh, no.
No?
I didn't have anything. Did you have?
Oh, a library story?
Oh, you have a library story?
I don't know. I go there every day. Actually, a couple of things that are kind of fun. I actually won one of our summer reading challenge prizes for the adult summer reading program. I actually really tried hard to make sure I hit my bingo squares, and I won the Sunnyside Kitchen gift certificate. So that was cool.
Cool.
And then my kids both completed, so they got these little squishy guys that they're super excited about. Like one's an octopus and one's a jellyfish, and they got some books. So yeah, I mean, even though I'm there every day, like I'm still trying to make sure my kids go, they have a good time. And they kind of got to double dip because my mom also works at a library. And so they were in the Carlsbad summer reading program as well. So they got like all the prizes. It was a very fun time. So that's all I have.
Well, good. Great. Well, with that, I will adjourn this meeting of the Library Board of Trustees. Yay.